It's strange, isn't it? How simple it is to point fingers, to pass blame, to redirect the spotlight away from themselves onto someone else. For them, crafting a story where you were the villain and they were the helpless victim was far easier. Shifting all the issues onto you, covering you with the shadows of their own insecurities, was a more comfortable option than facing the truth in their own reflection. They built up this belief that by making you the problem, they'd never have to consider that perhaps they themselves were cracked. And now, as they sit in silence, the blame they worked so hard to cast upon you is drifting back toward them, curling like smoke from a lingering fire. Every accusation, every distorted story, every whispered tale they spun about you, hoping others would believe it, is coming back to haunt them now. They attempted to bury their own flaws under heaps of accusations. But these flaws don't remain buried. They rise like ghosts, creeping into their thoughts, whispering in the darkness. The truths they fought so hard to avoid are resurfacing, with no one left to blame. They were so quick to find fault in you, so ready to dissect each supposed flaw, yet never once did they turn that same scrutiny on themselves. They couldn't admit that perhaps it was them who had pushed you away, built walls, twisted the narrative. They hid behind a mask of innocence, trying to convince themselves, and others, that they were blameless, that you were the root of all problems. But masks wear thin, and now they're left with the nagging truth that maybe, just maybe, they were hiding from their own reality, and that truth is the hardest of all to face. You see, the blame they tossed your way was never really about you. It was about their own fears, their insecurities, and the pieces of themselves they couldn't bear to acknowledge. They thought by making you the villain, they could keep their own secrets locked away, out of sight. But now, as the dust settles, those secrets are louder than ever. The things they ran from, the flaws they ignored, are staring them down, leaving them no place to hide. They tried to flee from reality, to construct a narrative where they were innocent and you were the villain. They convinced themselves of their own righteousness, that they had no role in the breakdown. Yet deep down they know it was a lie. Beneath every accusation, every criticism, lay a fear they were unwilling to face, a part of themselves they refused to accept. And now, alone with their thoughts, that lie is unraveling, and they're left with the bitter taste of words they cannot reclaim. It haunts them. It's easy to blame others, to point fingers, to shape yourself as the victim in a story where you're always right. But blame is a flimsy shield. It may protect you briefly, but eventually it falls apart, leaving you vulnerable to confront the truth you desperately tried to hide. For them, that moment has come. Every word they used to tear you down, every excuse they crafted to avoid their own flaws, now echoes in their mind, a relentless reminder of the truth they can't escape. They wanted the world to see you as the villain, the one who caused everything to break. They wanted to twist the story to walk away guilt-free, convinced of their innocence. But here's the truth. You can't rewrite reality, no matter how hard you try. The truth finds a way to rise above the lies, revealing the cracks in the story they tried to weave. Now that truth haunts them, a constant reminder that they weren't as innocent as they wished others would believe. They tried to drown their own guilt in accusations, in stories that painted you as the source of all their issues. But guilt is a tenacious thing. It clings, gnaws, whispers in those silent moments when no one else is there to distract them. And now, that guilt is too heavy to ignore. They're haunted by the realization that maybe they were wrong, that perhaps they were the ones who let pride and ego destroy something real. That realization is tearing them apart. They thought they could sidestep responsibility by blaming you, that convincing themselves you were the problem would keep them from facing their own faults. But blame becomes a prison, trapping them within their own lies. Now, they feel the weight of that cage, the suffocating grip of the stories they spun to avoid facing reality. They're caught in a loop of regret and denial, haunted by the very truths they tried so hard to avoid. They cast you as the villain to protect themselves, but now they're realizing they played the role they feared most. They were the ones who wouldn't change, who clung to pride, who refused to admit their own part in the downfall. Now, in the ruins of what they once had, they're faced with the bitter truth that they were their own worst enemy. Every accusation, every story, every blame cast your way is coming back, too heavy for them to bear. They wanted to walk away guilt-free, but life doesn't work that way. The truth doesn't vanish, nor does guilt. It lingers, a constant reminder of choices made, lies told, blame used as a shield for fragile egos. And now, alone with their guilt, they're left with only regret, haunted by the knowledge that they could have chosen honesty, but didn't. They wanted the world to believe you were the problem, that you were the cause of the collapse. Yet the more they cling to this story, the emptier it feels. Deep down, they know the truth, and that truth is a weight they cannot escape. It follows them, a silent reminder of flaws they tried to hide, mistakes they made, and truths they fought to ignore. And that weight, it's heavier than they ever imagined. In the silence, they're left to face the reality they fled. Each accusation, each story, each excuse is unraveling, exposing the lies they surrounded themselves with. They thought they could escape, but you can't run from yourself. You can't ignore the parts of yourself you tried so hard to deny. Now they're left with the hard truth that by blaming others, they ignored the need for their own growth. They thought they'd feel liberated, unburdened by responsibility, guiltless. But instead, they feel empty, haunted by the awareness that they ran from the truth. They're left with echoes of their own lies, the weight of their excuses, and the guilt of choices unaddressed. And that guilt isn't fading. It's growing, gnawing, a constant reminder of chances missed, truths suppressed. They sought control, hoping to rewrite the narrative with you as the problem. But they never truly held control. They were simply hiding from their own flaws. Now, as they sit alone, they're confronted by the truth they tried to bury. They see now that in blaming you, they missed the chance to fix themselves. That truth, it's eating them alive. They thought blame would shield them from guilt, but blame is a slow, creeping poison that taints everything it touches. Now, it's consuming them, eroding the lies they built, the stories they told. They're left with regret, haunted by the knowledge that they were their own worst enemy, destroying something precious to protect their pride. And so, they're left, trapped in a prison of their own making, haunted by the truth they tried to deny. They're left with the bitter taste of regret, burdened by lies, and the reality that they could have chosen a different path. That's the real punishment. Blaming you to protect themselves only ended up destroying them. The truth is here, an inescapable presence that will haunt them for the rest of their days. And every time they close their eyes, memories flood back, unforgiving, relentless. It's not only the echoes of their words, but the weight of the unspoken truths. It's the conversations twisted, the moments dismissed, the painful realities avoided until there was nothing left. Their words, once their tools to keep distance and veil themselves in innocence, now haunt them, resurfacing in every silent moment, replaying scenes they can't erase. They're haunted not by what they lost, but by what they caused to disappear, by actions they can't take back. As time passes, they grasp the irony. All they wanted was to walk away unscathed, free of guilt. Yet now, they bear more of it than they ever imagined. It's an invisible weight, growing heavier each day. It follows them in silence, during late hours when distractions fall away. It's a guilt that shadows them, whispering truths they tried to bury. They may distract themselves briefly, but that guilt remains, a constant presence,